The Paperclip Murders, Chapter 6. The Swan Song of a Lonely Duck. So, the case was simple enough. Find out who was probably going to try to kill Mr. Woodchuck and stop them, preferably before they succeeded, because I probably wasn't going to get paid if they did. Wisely, I thought about this ahead of time and had him give me a retainer, $5,000 in cash, with a promise of more if I brought the would-be killer to justice. And for my own sake, I promised back that one way or another, even if it was after the fact, I'd make sure to get the job done. He didn't look too happy about that particular aspect of it, but them's the breaks, kid. Now, when Carrington Gray gets on the job, a couple of things start to happen immediately. First, the criminals, if they're smart, start to shake and rattle and roll like a bunch of epileptics at a Chuck Berry concert. Then all sorts of coincidences start falling together in patterns, like little fate doilies. I was pretty certain I could hear the bell-like knocking of knees somewhere off in the distance as the would-be killer started to quiver, and the coincidences were getting ugly. This morning, for instance, 2 days after Woodchuck hired me, I had opened the fridge door in the morning to find that my milk had soured. The coffee maker had been left on too long, and the coffee all had a black as the devil's bowels taste to it. And then there was the hammer-like pounding of the brain baby in my head, feasibly explained away as the throb of last night's gin and vodka soiree. Add that to the fact that my bed didn't even have me in it this morning because I'd somehow slept in my bathtub, and it got downright sinister. I staggered to the bathroom cabinet and pulled a couple of aspirin from a forlorn bottle there, slurped them down with a mouthful of water from the spigot, and was rewarded when I stood up with another thum thum thum. The sound seemed to reverberate from outside my head, like my whole place was echoing the Hangover's drum solo. Great Scott, I thought to myself as I staggered back to the kitchen, passing the front door, which seemed to me to suddenly be the door to my brain, the thumbing sound coming even more loudly from there. Suddenly it dawned on me that the thumping noise was someone at the door, and I about faced. One leg stuck out in front of me like I was a plastic soldier, always in perpetual march. My hand, sweaty as it was, grabbed the handle and twisted, and the door suddenly exploded inward at me with sunbeams and solar flares shooting in all directions, like a disco ball at the end of God's dance floor. Except it wasn't God knocking, inviting me to dance the Charleston with one or two of his beautiful angels. Not unless God was an angry Russian loan shark with 2 cinder blocks for hands, who went by the name Yurov. And Yurov's angels were 2 equally ugly men, named Bolislavich and something. I called him that because I could never remember what the other nightmare he used for a name was. Yurov himself was built like a minotaur, with a powerful, stocky body, short, thick legs, and a face like a bad caricature of Nixon with scars on top of scars. Yurov crossed the threshold into my little abode and poked a finger in my chest before I could come to my gin-sodden senses. "You are very late with the money," he said, his voice sounding like sandpaper rubbing across someone's knees. To either side of him, Bolislavich and something manifested, and for a moment I thought they were all going to start singing, their very own barbershop trio. I waved a hand from the air in front of me to brush away Yurov's finger. My fingers nearly broke into pieces against his granite chunk of a hand, which did not budge. "Sure," I said, nodding as I put my throbbing hand in an empty pocket and bit down a scream. "I've been working hard to get it, though, and guess what? I've got a little payment to give you." I backpedaled to my desk, scooping up the waiting envelope, which held $3,000 in it in nice neat bundles, and handed it over to Yurov. I forgot that Yurov doesn't accept stuff handed to him unless maybe it's cold dried souls on a loaf of misery. Borislavich reached around Yurov like some freakish spider monkey and snatched the envelope from my hand, and something grabbed my digits before I could pull my hand back and twirled me around like he was the lead and we were swing dancing. I wanted to shout, "Olé!" but I pretty much only got out a strangled "Blah!" before my arm was jerked up like a chicken wing and I thought I was going to pass out, maybe after I heard it snap. But instead of snapping, though it tore a good long hole in the armpit of my stained from the night before shirt, I simply was propelled through the air in a misshapen cartwheel to land in a tangle of arms and legs on the couch. The couch went over like an intoxicated boxer, and I lay on the floor, one arm on a cushion, and stared at the ceiling as it spun crazily around. Somewhere, Russian demons were cackling, and I heard Yurov snort, like bull, perhaps. There was another sound, something liquid being poured onto the floor, and my brain told me that something was giving my floor a urine bath. Yurov laughed then, a sound that called the brain baby back to life, and as they lumbered out of my house, he said, "We don't break your limbs this time, eh? Then you can get more money for us, eh? 3 days. Yes, ladies and gents, sometimes coincidence with a B.I.